Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's noon, actually. We are very happy to have you here, online and offline. Before we started, I'd like to acknowledge the Ghana people, the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, and pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Before we start the meeting and seminar, I'd like to know who's HDR students in this room. Okay, a few hands. Who are researchers in the uni? More hands. Who are the undergraduate students? Nice. And who are the industry people? Industry. Okay, so we have a good representation of different stakeholders in this room. And I hope that every one of you can get something out of today's seminar. Just a brief intro. So Australian Plant Breeding Academy was established in 2021. This is a partnership between AGT, Australian Grain Technologies, which is the largest, one of the largest plant breeding company in Australia, and the University of Adelaide to facilitate research as well as to educate the next generation of scientists and plant breeders. And in today's session, James and Stuart will give more overview of APBA and what this partnership means to everyone here. And after that, the PhD cohorts, myself, Tim, and Anton will give a brief talk about our experience within the PhD program of APBA, and in the end, we will have a Q&A session. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please write down and save it for the Q&A section. And if you have any questions online, please feel free to put it in the chat and we will address it at the Q&A session. And I hope that everyone keep a smile on their face, respect our speaker, and give them a lot of hard questions at the end. So now I'd like to pass on to Tim to introduce the speakers of today.
Hello there, everyone. Today we have two speakers before the PhD student comes up and gives a little bit of talk. So first and foremost, we have James Walter from Australian Grain Technologies, AGT. So James holds a Bachelor of Agricultural Science honours from the University of Adelaide and a PhD in Phenomics and Plant Breeding. He was the inaugural recipient of the Peter Waite Centenary Scholarship for Excellence in Agriculture, supporting his PhD research focus on applying precision agriculture technologies such as high throughput phenotyping and environmental monitoring to wheat breeding programs. Now he leads the bioinformatics team in AGT, responsible for applying cutting-edge biometry, genomics, and computer vision within their breeding programs. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to James.
Right, thank you, Tim. Thanks for that introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. As Tim said, I'm James from Australian Grain Technologies. I'm the bioinformatics lead there. Today, I'm going to give you a bit of an overview about AGT to help set the picture of our involvement in the APBA. And then Stu's going to talk a bit more about the APBA itself and what it's offering. So I guess an obligatory title slide here with our logo and just sort of our main motto of Australian Grain Technologies. And we're all about crop improvement for stronger rural communities. And what we mean by that is we're a plant breeding company, so we're all about creating new varieties of grains for farmers so that they can have more profitable farms and end up having a more profitable rural community. So also, as Tim said, or it might have been Jean, sorry, so we're Australia's largest plant breeding company. We started in 2002, originally starting out of the old University of Adelaide wheat breeding program. So we've got 4 shareholders. So these are University of Adelaide as one, state government through PIRSA, the GRDC, Grains Research and Development Corporation, and then also Lima Grain, who are a French-based multinational plant breeding company. We also have a really strong focus on education and training. Sorry. Strong focus on education and training, and that's sort of really ingrained in our company culture, and it's led us to be part of things like the APBA, which you'll hear a little bit more about soon. So like I said, we're a plant breeding company. Our main crop, the crop that we started in, is wheat, but we've expanded into barley, durum, canola, lupin, and also pulses now. And so these are spread across all of our breeding facilities across Australia. I've got a map in a few slides that will show that and how that's all spread out. But while we're a breeding company, I thought I'd also highlight that it's more than just plant breeders working at AGT. So obviously we have all the breeding teams that are dealing with plant breeding itself, but we have a number of other teams such as our glasshouse team that are working with all the early generations and making crosses for us. We have our field teams managing all of the field sites and collecting all of that data that we can use for the breeding teams. Have a quality laboratory doing all end product quality again, which goes back into breeding. We have the bioinformatics team, which is the team I lead, working with the breeders to help them manage all of their genetic data and all of their data analysis. And then also variety support teams. So these are the teams working with growers to help in variety selection so that they know what's good about our varieties, what might be suitable for their areas, and also just offering extension about what we know for these varieties.
James, can I just ask, like, with your bioinformatics title,
yeah,
that encompasses like literally statistics and modelling?
Yeah, so maybe I should rephrase it as bioinformatics and biometry. That might be a more familiar term. Yeah, we use the term bioinformatics as a all-encompassing term for biology, computer science, statistics. But I guess for the people who actually work in bioinformatics, you might see it as just some of those aspects, not the holistic approach that we've gone with. So consider that biometry as well. So I'm based out at Roseworthy here in South Australia. So that's where our main offices are, our Southern Crop Breeding Centre. But we are a national company. So we're spread across from the East Coast through to the West Coast. And we're covering all of the major grain growing regions. We've got about 90 people in the company at the moment, so 60 of those based at Roseworthy. And so here we're breeding wheat, barley, canola, pulses, and also testing durum. So we have durum field trials, but we don't do any durum breeding there. In Northern, in our Western Breeding Centre, spring wheat breeding, lupin breeding, barley testing and canola testing. Narrabri, our Northern Centre, spring wheat and durum wheat breeding, as well as barley testing and durum quality. And then in Wagga Wagga, our Eastern Breeding Centre, spring and winter wheat breeding with barley testing and canola testing. The other thing I forgot to mention for the Southern Breeding Centre there, so this is where all our support teams are based. So these are our quality lab, glasshouse team, bioinformatics team, and our administration team. So I guess the link between AGT and APBA, so this all came about as we wanted to formalise our long-standing partnership with the University of Adelaide, particularly around the areas of research and education. So for many years, we've been an industry collaborator across many projects with the uni. A number of us are also involved in lecturing as part of the plant breeding course in the Bachelor of Agriculture Science undergrad degree. And a number of us also supervise postgraduate students. So alongside of that, we sort of wanted to expand on this and I guess provide opportunities for students to gain a bit more of a hands-on experience within a breeding company, I guess to see what it's actually like working in the industry. So I think Stu's going to discuss this a little bit more than I will, but just a very quick flavour of it. We want to offer opportunities for things like work experience to just try a bunch of different stuff within the company and assist with activities that are happening, short internships to potentially work on specific research projects, and then also the opportunity for PhDs. So like I said, a number of us supervise postgraduate students. and we're always keen on PhD projects to try and further what we're doing, and also invest in up-and-coming people in agriculture and help provide training for the next lot of people that will be doing these jobs. So that's my very short intro to AGT. Obviously, if you've got any other questions while I'm here, feel free to ask me. But outside of that, if you've got further questions on AGT or APBA or our involvement in it, the best contact for you would be Tristan Coram. So he's our Head of Science and Business Development. And the other thing I've included there is just a link to a video on our about page of our website. So I think it's about an 8-minute video that gives a bit more of a thorough overview of the company than I have, and sort of walks through the breeding process, how we do all the different things we do, all the different teams, and how it all comes together. So if you'd like a bit more info, that's a nice resource to look at. And with that, I'll finish up and hand back to Tim. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, for giving the AGT's perspective on the APA. So our next speaker is Associate Professor Stuart Roy, which is the Associate Head of School External Engagement and Outreach in the School of Agriculture, Food and Wines. And he's also the Deputy Director at the ARC Training Centre for Future Crops Development. So Stu's research focuses on improving the abiotic stress tolerance of cereal crops, particularly salinity tolerance and cereal yield improvement. And after completing a root bank research fellowship at Cambridge, he joined the Australian Centre for Plant Functional Genomics at the University of Adelaide to lead the salinity research program. He now leads the Adelaide node of the ARC Training Centre, looking to train the next generation of researchers and industry leaders in advanced breeding technologies. And with that, let's welcome Stu Roy.
All right. If I'm wearing a shirt, I'm going to wear the lapel neck. Okay. Thank you for the introduction, Tim. So as Tim said, I'm going to give you a little overview on what the Plant Breeding Academy is. And I need to make sure I don't pace. Tim, I'm in the bit of the camera. All right there? Yeah. All right. So the Plant Breeding Academy, as Jean mentioned, has been around since 2021. It's actually what brought Laura Wilkinson, who's at the back there, give a wave, Laura, back to the country. It's had a little bit of a refocus in some of its activities, and this is why we got this session here, to basically sort of introduce everyone to the Plant Breeding Academy if you weren't aware of it, and also to our fantastic PhD students that are part of the academy and some of the work that they're doing. So, as Jean mentioned, the Plant Breeding Academy is a strategic partnership between Australian Grains Technology and the School of Agricultural Food and Wine. The goal of the Academy is to produce the next generation of plant breeders and plant scientists, as well as working towards delivering translatable research and development outcomes that would be passed on to sort of the breeding industry. It's got two main aims and three key focus areas. The first of those aims is in educational activities to lift the capability of the agri-food sector across Australia, and then also to generate intellectual property that can be commercialised for the benefits of AGT and the university. Effectively looking at developing research outcomes that can be commercialised, that they then can give money back to AGT and the School of Ag, Food and Wine to keep more of the same activities going forward into the future. And the key focus areas for this are around education, the agricultural and food science research development, and then also communication, is what this forum here is sort of part of. So the key contacts for the Plant Breeding Academy are Jason Abel in his role of Professor of Plant Breeding at the University of Adelaide, and then Hayden Kuchel, the CEO of Australian Grains Technology and also head of breeding. And then you also have myself and Tristan Coram as other people you can reach out to. Tristan, if you've not met him, is head of the science and business development at AGT, and I'm someone that pretends to know what a crop plant is. So in the educational front, we sponsor PhD students. We give them a full scholarship, we give them consumables, and then also, thanks to AGT, they get access to the fantastic facilities at AGT. And these scholarships are for projects that are focusing on specific areas of plant breeding. And you're going to meet Jean, Tim, and Anton in a few minutes as they're going to describe their experiences with the Academy and a little bit about their project as well. There are also opportunities for honours projects, so for the undergraduates and the potential supervisors. There will be an honours year next year at Adelaide University. It's a good chance this will be the last year of honours at the university, but there is the opportunity for doing an honours project based out at AGT, and many of our students have done that as well. And if you're interested in potential honours projects, come and see me, and we can work up something in that area. As already been sort of mentioned by James, there's opportunities for going out and doing internships. So for the undergraduate students, for your 450 hours of internship, what you have to do is your Bachelor of Agricultural Science. You can go out there and get experience with AGT for that. Helps with harvest, helps with planning, or working on very specific projects. We're also, thanks to the efforts of Tim, Jean and Anton, looking at ways of exposing students, both undergraduates and PhD students, to more aspects about the grains industry through exposure to industry field days, seminars like this, and also workshops. One of the things we did last year is we sponsored one of our third-year undergraduate students to actually go and attend the Australian crop breeders meeting in Melbourne, so fully paid flights, accommodation, etc., for them to go across and spend 5 days with the AGT team at the meeting and actually get more exposure to the grain sort of industry, or the crop industry out there. And as James has mentioned, many of the AGT staff come and give guest seminars or actually teach into some of the undergraduate teaching programs as well. So in this area, watch the space, because there will be more opportunities for seminars, workshops, and sort of engagement with the grains industry. The bit of the Plant Breeding Academy that's been going on the longest would be in sort of the research and development area. Originally, sort of Laura came across from the UK to look at establishing projects with potential future crops and breeding for future crops in the sector. But more recently, there's been a bit more of a focus on pre-breeding and also breeding activities in the current crops that AGT work with. And the Plant Breeding Academy will help support sort of grant and tender submissions to the GRDC and the ARC and SAGIT as well. And if you're interested in that kind of support, have a chat with myself and sort of Tristan. We can work up potential sort of projects in those areas, and then work with Jason and Hayden to see about getting that funded. The other opportunity as well, if you might remember from last year, was we had a call for in-house projects, which are directly funded from School of Agrifood and Wine and AGT through the Plant Breeding Academy. These are small-scale projects looking to develop either new sort of research areas or actually go with translational activities, take something you've got already into something that can go, the AGT can use to get out into the field. The idea with these projects is that looking at doing the translational stuff, if it then does get commercialised, the money from that gets fed back into the Plant Breeding Academy to then also fund future projects in sort of that area. So if you are thinking about things in that space, just be aware around sort of the IP sort of issues that would be in that area. Not certainly going to stop you publishing or doing anything on that work, but the royalties that would come back from a commercialised project would go back into the Academy to look at funding new sort of projects. And we've currently got one project going at the moment with Tatiana, who's got a project looking around new herbicides with sort of AGT. So these in-house projects will look at strategic initiatives that sort of further breeding research and development of new commercial cultivars, or projects that have got sort of a clear sort of pathway to market. But look at encouraging collaborations between the school and AGT itself. So if you have any thoughts in that space or want to know more about that, certainly reach out to myself or Tristan. We can go through that in more detail. And then the last area is a bit more around the communication. proposed by the PhD students, have a bit more topics around sort of plant breeding, raising awareness of plant breeding to students, undergraduates, postgraduate students, researchers, early career things, just be aware of what's on that in that sort of space. And they have been starting to organise a seminar series, which we'll go through in a few sort of minutes' time, as a startup and working into this this area. But also there's opportunities around sort of joint publications and a much more sort of hopefully productive engagement between both the school and AGT. And that was me. Going to pass back to Tim.
Thank you very much, Stu. So next, we welcome our PhD students within APBA, including myself, to present our journey to PhD and a little bit about the research that we are doing. And without further ado, I'll welcome Jean Wu, who is the inaugural recipient of the APBA scholarship.
Thank you, team, for the introduction. So I will present my journey so far that led me to PhD. I guess this is more of interest for undergraduate students to see what the path has been like, and for other people, I guess it's a good introduction about myself, and hopefully we can make some connections at the end. So right now I'm in my third year of my PhD. I was originally from Hanoi, Vietnam. And since year 8 to 12, I've already had a very keen interest in biology, especially genetics, where I learned about the Mendelian inheritance. And from then, I did compete in multiple competitions in Vietnam. And I guess at year 10, my plan was to specialize in biology in high school, and then do a biology Olympiad and hopefully get straight into medical school. Because in Vietnam, it was very competitive. So doing a competition will get you straight to medical school in a more straightforward way. So I ended up in a biology specialized high school class in high school. But then my plan for biology Olympiad failed, and I was quite disappointed, but ended up opening a new path. After reflecting on my personality and my interests, I've decided to do a more agriculture related study, and that's where Adelaide, Australia came in mind as one of the city with the University of Adelaide that is very strong in agriculture space. And that's why I am here at the moment. After that, I realized rejection is merely a redirection and a course correction to your destiny. And during my bachelor years, I've done the Bachelor of Applied Biology in Plant Production Innovation and did an honors. FYI, this bachelor doesn't exist anymore. It only existed for a couple of years, but I did benefit a lot out of it. So I realized I have a broad interest. So for biochemistry, so I was interested in multiple subjects, and I tried to, I guess, incorporate that interest by experiencing in multiple opportunity in uni by internships, placements, casual experience, etc. And for biochemistry, I did a summer internship within the Boulogne lab. Really enjoyed the analytical chemistry. Did a bit of stats and learning to code in R with the Biometry Hub, where I did the R Shiny app. Put my foot in fundamental plant science for a couple months with the plant energy biology group, doing, I think, more preliminary study for the plant for space, looking at plants' reaction to different source of light and in microgravity. And it ended up in ABC for 2 seconds. I was also, to continue my interest in genetics, I also did an honors looking at agave and really enjoy the part that I did more genetic in like ploidy and phylogeny. I was interested in chemistry as well, so I did past leadership for chemistry 1B, and look into agriculture through my casual experience with AGT, did the beer production course and enjoy the food science side of it and the drinking beer side of it, and more science communication throughout my placement with Fight Food Waste. So I enjoy that fast pace and that collaboration with the industry as well as academics. So overall, throughout my bachelor experience, I realized I have very broad interest. I enjoy the analytical part side of it. And throughout my honors, I enjoyed the project, but I thought I would enjoy something more large scales and more industry focused. So that's where plant breeding came in. You might see this graph looks quite similar to the one I showed you before, and that's plant breeding. It's involved in a lot of all genetics, data, biotechnology, molecular biology, stats, agronomy, and so on. And that's where I reflected back on my plant breeding course in year 3 with Jason Abel, and realized that's where my path will take. And after having a chat with Jason, Tristan, and Hayden, we come up with an opportunity to do a PhD project within APBA and with the partnership with AGT. Definitely learn a lot from keep trying, and I'll figure out the path. Fast forward, right now I'm in my 3rd year of my PhD, looking at alternative semi-dwarf genes in barley. So within this project, I look at multiple aspects of alternative semi-dwarf genes, including QTL mapping, evaluating the agronomic effects, and looking at the effect in malting quality. So definitely involved in multiple skills that I was interested in. So quantitative genetics, looking at agronomy, molecular biology, biochemistry, and stats. So within a month, I can spend some time in the field as well as in the lab, as well as in the glass house. And that really helped me fulfill my interest and enjoy my journey. And within this PhD program, I also got to travel to conferences and present, meeting with with other academics and researchers, and got to travel and drive in countryside and enjoy that aspect as well. And that's the picture of me in going to Victoria. And overall, definitely I've learned that hard work is very important, but it's more important that you enjoy the journey on the way. And with that, I'd like to pass on to Tim to share about his experience.
So, good day, everyone. So today I'll just be sharing a little bit about my journey to PhD. And so from high school, I always had like a strong interest in sustainable food production in a changing climate conditions, and that motivated me to pursue a Bachelor of Ag Science in the University of Adelaide. And clearly I chose the best time to start because I'm sure we all remember what happened in 2020. Anyways, I slowly realized that I didn't quite enjoy the animal handling or livestock production part of the ag degree. And that's when I started exploring other alternatives within the university, which I then stumbled across 2 majors, which is within the Bachelor of Science Advanced degree, which is ecology and environmental science, as well as plant biology, which aligned really well with my interests. And during this time, I had many opportunities to get a taste of doing research, because I did not really plan to go into postgraduate at all, like when I started my degree. So this was a good like exposure for myself to actually get a sneak peek of research and see if I actually want to go down this path. And so one of these opportunities included like an ecology field camp in second year, where we did some research in plant physiology at the Brookfield Conservation Station up in the Riverland district. And we in second year foundations in plant science, I also did a group research project to look at plant responses to different levels of soil salinity, using the Field Explorer to collect the phenotypes of the plants and how they react to different salinity. And you can see that there's Darren Platt in there that was working at the Plant Accelerator at that time, was mentoring us in this project. And I was also really lucky to receive a summer research scholarship to do some research with Associate Professor Ian Searle at the School of Biological Sciences to do some research on the regulatory pathway of seed coat color to do some research on the regulatory pathway of seed coat color in veg using bioinformatics. And in my third year, I also did a research placement at the Plant Accelerator again with Andrew Hennessy and Huajin to perform some hyperspectral imaging on strawberries to as an alternative non-destructive assessment to quantify sugar content in strawberries. So these experiences and opportunities really gave me the confidence to go into doing a HDR research after my degree. And in third year, I also met James Walter in the plant breeding course, where he was giving some lectures on plant phenotyping, and we kept in touch ever since then, which was a good choice for me because clearly that's how I stumbled across the opportunity to do some research with AGT. And in the plant breeding course in third year really sparked my interest in plant breeding in general, and also specifically on how we can integrate or optimize the plant breeding program with innovative tech. And I graduated my degree in December 22. So between December 22 and September 2023, I took a gap year after graduation to spend some time with family, friends, and also worked as a casual lab assistant with Professor Amanda Abel at the Abel's lab, and also as a lab technician at Eurofin's APAL and Intertech Agri to do some testing on pesticide residues and herbicide residues on grain commodities that will be exported from Australia. And as I mentioned before, during this time, I kept in touch with James, and an interesting project came about in AGT during this time. And that's how I started my MPhil project in September 2023, also at the University of Adelaide. And you might wonder why I chose to do an MPhil instead of honours, which is the more traditional route after degree to do an honours and then go do a PhD. And that's because as an international student, there was more options in terms of scholarships and more opportunities in that space to do an MPhil instead of honours. And that's why I chose to pursue an MPhil instead of honours. And the project that I was working on during my MPhil was to improve the assessment of canola blackleg disease through automated plant detection and improve genomic prediction approaches. Without going into too much details, I'll just focus on the keywords here. So blackleg disease is the most devastating disease in canola. It causes on average up to 30% of yield loss every year in Australia. And traditionally in breeding programs, what they do to test the genotypes or the breeding lines is to grow them in blackleg nurseries that have been inoculated with high blackleg disease pressure. And then they go out there in the field to count at the start after emergence, and then they count again at the end for maturity and look at the survival of each different genotype. So what we propose here in this project was, instead of going out there to count the plants manually. You fly a drone across the paddock to collect plot level images, so that this immensely increase the phenotyping efficiency. And after that, we use deep learning to train an object detection model to identify the canola seedlings from these drone images, which allow us to automatically detect and count the number of plants from each plot level image. And lastly, we optimize the genomic selection approach, genomic prediction model to account for the relationship between the two traits that I mentioned, so that it's we can select for individuals with more with greater blackleg resistance with more accuracy. So I knew that MPhil can be upgraded to PhD when I started my MPhil. So I worked really, really hard in the first 1.5 years so that I can meet the conditions and also the prerequisite to even apply for an upgrade. And thankfully, I was offered an upgrade to PhD, and that's why I'm standing here today. And this PhD project built upon that MPhil project, but with an additional objective to develop more complex model that accounts for genotype by trait by environment interactions. And in August 25, my first ever academic paper got published, so yay. The expected completion, at least the range that I'm giving myself to complete my PhD is late 26, early 27. And this is just my personal opinion, but I feel that a successful postgraduate or HDR student should possess at least these 3 key qualities, because you will definitely run into many obstacles and challenges in your journey during your PhD. And in my case, I do not have like a programming or a computer science background, so the learning curve at the start was pretty steep. And so you definitely need resilience to persevere through these obstacles along the way, and to solve one problem at a time and move on to the next one, because there's always going to be another problem that pops up after that. I'm sure my fellow PhD students can relate to that. And then the second thing that I think is really, really important is communication, because it's not just all about the research. You also need to be able to communicate your research outcomes, whether through like writing research papers or speaking at conferences or networking or collaborating with people around you within the school or within the wider university or research community, really helps to bring your research to the next level. And you definitely need some level of independence as well when you're pursuing a PhD research project, because you need to be able to manage your time and organize your schedule efficiently so that you can stay on top of the major milestones. And self-motivation is really important in that sense, so that you can keep on top of your research project, because no one is going to like spoon feed you every step along the way. And just to share a few pictures of my PhD journey or experience so far. So I've attended some and spoke at some conferences, and recently at Edinburgh at the top left in Scotland, and the bottom left is earlier this year in Perth, WA. And so along with going to these conferences, there's some perks as well. So you get to go to go do some sightseeing, some excursions with the people that you meet there, or as part of the conference registration itself. And being integrated within APBA and collaborating with AGT, I get to attend like AGT events as well. And this image here is an image of the PhD cohort at the national conference, at AGT's national conference earlier this year. And also being a student affiliated with the Biometry Hub is really helpful, especially at the start of my PhD candidature, because I've been really lucky to be surrounded by people that have knowledge and experience with advanced statistics and also programming, which really helped at the start. And like what Stu said as well, so being in APBA, you can attend industry field days as well. And in this this image, it was the Hartfield Day, I believe, a few like 2 years ago, and that was Glenn McDonald giving a talk there. And also harvest as well, like what James mentioned. So being able to do some casual work during the harvest season really puts a lot of things in perspective. And with that, I would like to end my talk today. Thank you. And next we have Anton. I'll pass the mic to Anton to share about his PhD journey. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Just on the interest of time, I will give you a semi-digestible version. I'm only in my first year of my PhD, or just over my first year of my PhD, so I don't have as much to share and as many photos to share with you, as I mainly spend most of my time taking photos of plants rather than getting myself taken photos of. So if you didn't gather already, my name is Anton Traeger. I'm a PhD student here at the Adelaide University and a member of the Australian Plant Breeding Academy. I'm here today to not only share with you my own personal journey, but also the goals in which the Australian Plant Breeding Academy wish to achieve. So you've heard a lot from James and Stu in terms of the aims in which we want to deliver, and particularly meaningful research outcomes to the industry, but also train and inspire the next generation of researchers and plant breeders. And this is something I'm particularly passionate about, particularly on the training side and the, what's the term? Yeah, on the training side, particularly as I myself have been shaped by various mentors throughout my journey since high school. So really, I'm here to kind of appeal to you guys as undergraduates today. So to give you a bit of a context of where I kind of came from in terms of my background in getting into my PhD here today, I actually started out with no agricultural background whatsoever, never set foot in a paddock, but for some particular reason, I decided to pick a Bachelor's of Ag Science. And it was only until I actually started the uni degree that I honestly fell in love with the degree. I loved all of the experiences. I thought it was an absolutely great time to experience ag within the industry that we're progressing towards. Though looking back though at the time, I actually had no interest in uni whatsoever. I couldn't even bear the thought. Yet somehow I ended up in a postgraduate degree. Don't know how that happened. It was only until really by a third year that I actually work out where I really wanted to be within the ag degree. I started coming up with ideas in terms of what career path did I want to follow. However, that just progressively kept changing, and I'm sure it's quite the same for you guys. So much like Gene and Tim, I did the plant breeding course in third year, where I got to meet a lot of the guys at AGT, particularly share my interest within an honours program. And when I went to them saying I've got no idea what I want to do, I like a lot of things, I was really quite surprised by the amount of topics and the scope in which the topics that they offered for to suit a range of interests really just blew me away. So eventually I settled in an honours degree looking at Septoria triticide blotch, resistance genes within wheat. Though before that actually happened, as I was actually a mid-year student, I actually spent 6 months at the GRDC, particularly within the grain genetic technologies division. So this was quite an interesting change of pace, as I spent most of my time learning about the actual plant breeding program itself within third year, whilst also spending a bit of time at AGT as a harvest casual. I now got the chance to spend a bit of time looking at the pre-breeding side of things. So mainly my time at the GRDC, I looked at a number of potential areas of investment, whilst also looking at whilst also not publishing, but putting together my own proof of concept investment. So when that finally finished, I then started my honours program, whilst also doing a little bit of harvest work at AGT. Being a mid-year student, it was quite a hectic start, as being the year in which we were having. It was a great year for disease progression, meaning I was able to score a lot of my trials quite quickly and quite frequently. Now, this scoring gave me, scoring of the pathogens themselves gave me a great experience in terms of experiencing research within an industry base. However, when the scoring kind of finished up, I was then able to experience research more of an academic, on an academic side of things, whereby I was able to actually host my own pot trial, where I selected specific breeding lines to inoculate and grow out within the within the pot trial. Sorry. I found the honours program itself to be a relatively great experience, and something that I highly recommend doing prior to its potential change. I found the honours experience a really enjoyable process, and it was only until towards the end of my project in which I was offered the chance to do a PhD between AGT and the University of Adelaide. So in August 2024, I was able to commence my PhD, looking at the genotype by environment interaction within bread wheat, whereby I aim to essentially achieve the prediction of look to predict genotype performance within a new environment, utilizing both genomics and phenomics. So my project essentially looks to focus on three main objectives, whereby I identify grain-yield components which are unaffected by the genotype by environment interaction, as well as identify genes of interest which influence grain yield under varying environmental conditions. And of course, then finally identify stable high-yielding genotypes. So just to round it out, just in the interest of time, so within the next couple of months, the Australian Plant Breeding Academy is looking to host a number of seminars, particularly on the history of plant breeding, core concepts of the breeding program, as well as plant pathology. Our seminar series looks to kind of be a bit of like a story as much of the breeding programs itself, as well as we'll look to host a number of workshops and social activities. So please follow us on LinkedIn to stay up to date. We're also going to be uploading our seminar series to YouTube, as well as, please visit the website for more information. Questions? Everyone.
And them as well.
Yeah, them as well.
Don't
forget about them.
Don't forget about them. Yeah. Don't look at us.
I want to know when you got a sunny day in Scotland.
Oh, that was the best day. That was the second time I was in Scotland. And that's the only time that I've seen sun in Scotland. So that day, everyone was out. I've never seen that many people in Scotland on the streets. Like, it was amazing. Yeah. Let's see if there's any questions. So,
Yes.
I'm just thinking, you guys are doing your PhD. Have you thought about where you're going to do? Are you going into research? Are you going into industry? Where you plan to? Have you had a thought about that yet?
the most senior one. Closest to finish.
So I have 5 months to go now. So at the moment I'm writing and wrapping up. So definitely after the journey, I realized what skills I enjoy. And I do realize I enjoy working within the industry space. So I'm actively writing and actively having conversations with people within AGT as well as Uni Adelaide and expressing my interest, and hopefully we will work something out in the future, but I will not jinx anything yet. Julian.
No.
Firstly, Tim and Anton, thanks for mentioning me as you've been students from supervising you. Thanks. That's true. Thanks. I just want to actually ask, like, this is probably more for you, James, because one of the things that these guys are going to be very good at and are very good at now as well, and Anton's like going to have to learn all of this too, is the programming / statistics / modelling, the multidisciplinary nature of the PhD. So this is me being ignorant too. In APBA, is there can possibly be a cross section of PhDs that may not necessarily include all these sorts of multidisciplinary activities? I mean, you're here, James, so.
It's a great question, Jules. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm imagining there will be quite a range of different projects in there. I guess the fact that these guys have all sort of ended up using a lot of those skills has just been a bit of an artifact of the specific projects that they've been working on. So I also, not that I was part of the APBA because it didn't exist, but I did a PhD with AGT in the University of Adelaide. And that also ended up being very stats and coding based, but that wasn't at all where I thought I was going to go. So I think there's definitely the potential for a wide range of projects. They're probably all going to have some level of statistics, but maybe not, say, as in depth as Tim and Anton's projects, which are very, very heavily stats based. But I also say that's part of working in plant breeding in general is there is underlying statistics in everything that we do. So all of our breeders all have some level of background in quantitative genetics and statistics. They're not full-blown statisticians, but they understand the concepts that apply to plant breeding so that they can use it within their breeding programs. Then we also have my team within the company, we're very statistics based, where it's a lot more prevalent. But having those foundational skills, I think no matter what the research is probably quite important. But we're not just offering stats-based PhDs.
I just want to point out that question is loaded in the sense of like, just so James can like just wax lyrical about the fact that it's advantageous to actually to have all this multidisciplinary knowledge.
Yeah.
And to take it past even AGT if you decide to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like that, this is the great thing about this.
Yeah, I would recommend that for anyone that thinks they want to stick around in ag at all, any level you can get in terms of being able to script and do basic statistics will just help you so much going forward. Like it's in everything that happens in research and in industry these days, and the more you can skill yourself up on it, the better off you'll be.
I'll just say on the PhD front as well, is more than happy to get people approaching the academy to say we've got an idea that we think sort of fits in with the remit and work that up. So if you've got any ideas for PhDs in space, have a chat with me, have a chat with Tristan, we can work up.
Yeah, well, very nice talks, everyone. So a question for James. If farmers or customers of AGT want to catch up with the latest science and technology and don't quite want to go through the full agricultural science course again or enroll in a PhD, what are the resources for them? And is there any consulting or what? How can a farmer take advantage of the latest tech without going back to school?
Yeah, so that's another good question. So that listing, I guess, sort of with our variety support teams that I mentioned very briefly up front. So we do a lot of extension work about, I guess I'll call them products, but about the varieties we create. So we don't actually sell varieties to people. We produce grain that seed affiliates grow up and then they sell it to farmers. So we don't directly sell any products, and we make money through an endpoint royalty system when farmers deliver grain. But we have a big focus on extension because, each year we are having new varieties come out that are different in some way, and they need to be grown slightly differently or treated differently. So We have a dedicated team of people within the company that are working in this space and deal directly with growers and with agronomists to spread the message of what we're doing, what we're working on, what's coming up next, what the latest things that are being released are, and how you might want to use those in your farming system. That team go out to a lot of field days, talk to growers directly. They get a lot of calls from growers asking them questions about what varieties they might want to grow on their properties, or things that they're seeing in the varieties they're growing on their properties. So I think the people in the industry that don't want to go through a whole other degree and learn that way, talking with our extension team for our sort of variety support is probably one of the best options. Or also directly with the breeders, like they're always happy to talk to growers and give their opinions on what's happening in the space, but mostly through our variety support team.
Thanks, James. I think on the basis of time, we're going to have to wrap it up there. But thank you everyone for attending our first of many, hopefully. Oh yes, and the people online, of course, thank you for tuning in. For attending what's hopefully going to be the first of many seminars and workshops over the coming months. Thank you very much, guys.